It's right, Kitty. It has been quite a while since I've done a writing video on this channel. So, why not do one now? Going over what my writing process actually is. Maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. But we'll have a lot of fun. So to start off with, the first, 4 basic components of telling a story at all are plot, setting, theme, and characters. The writing process I use uses characters and setting before developing any sort of plot or, themes. I am a firm believer in that, the settings that these characters grow up in or are a part of shape who they are today, presently in the story. So, you know what, I just develop the settings and the characters first. Because really, the characters should write themselves, not you writing the characters. That's why I'm drawn to stories more like Naruto Shippuden or Gothic, because, even if they're not the best narratively, even if they have a million filler episodes, what I can still respect is that Naruto's characters and Gothic's characters are shaped by the environments that they grew up in or are currently in. And that's what I love most about them. The characters do write themselves very well, and they are prime examples of well-written, character-driven stories. However, in order to properly explain what my writing process entails, I'm not going to be using either of those properties. Instead, I'm going to be using a video game, specifically Ace Attorney. Now, for those uninitiated, Ace Attorney is a series of video games where you play as, an attorney, investigating crimes, finding holes in your witnesses' testimonies, all to uncover the real truth behind said crime, while running into a whole host of twists, turns, and very wacky characters. Using this existing property, I hope to better get my writing process across to all of you. So, let's get started. Now then, first up is the common setting. This is perhaps the most important part of my writing process, and is the foundation for what is to come, for all of the characters that appear in my projects. And as the name suggests, your common setting will be the most used setting in your story. When it comes to the common setting, you need to ask 3 questions. Why are they there? 2, what is their purpose in being in this common setting? And 3, when are they in this common setting? Using Ace Attorney, the common setting would be the courthouse. This is where the majority of the characters interact on a semi-regular basis. This is where most of the story unfolds, and this is where the main crux of the gameplay takes place. Why they are there? Well, most of them, it's their job, whether it be as a defense attorney, a prosecutor, detective, assistant, or a judge. However, some of them are forced to be there, or come of their own volition, like expert witnesses, and, the defendant. Now, this is merely used for basic reasoning as to why your characters are in this common setting. But now, on to more complex reasoning. What is their purpose in your common setting? This more complex reasoning gives your characters more depth, and it fleshes them out more, and, can make them more endearing to your audience. This is essentially an expansion on the simpler reasoning of why are your characters there. Some of the characters in Ace Attorney, while they are there because it's their job, or because they're obligated to, or because they're forced to, some of them are, blackmailed, some of them are coerced, some of them are even lied to, or forced to be there for a specific reason. This can also be used to tie into a backstory of some kind. For example, the first prosecutor of the game, Miles Edgeworth, he became a prosecutor after his father's killer got off on an insanity plea, so not guilty. And he decided, well, that's wrong, and so I'm just going to become a prosecutor and make sure to get the guilty verdict for every case I do. Now then, on to the third. When are they there? Rather than used for telling time, it really is used more to keep the events of your story and what happens to your characters in check and consistent. Think of it like a timeline for your character or characters who are interacting with this common setting. Point A would be the beginning of interaction. Point B would be presently in your story, or when it takes place. And then point C would be end of interaction, or the end of the story, and, how they come out of your common setting. Using the character of Miles Edgeworth again, his beginning of interaction with the common setting, the courthouse, began at a very young age. His father was a defense attorney, and thus young Miles would go and see his cases and whatnot. So he was inspired to become a defense attorney like his dad. Now, his father was killed, of course, so this is the in-between between point A and point B, in which the game presently takes place. He is a cold, calculating man who is very, very focused on getting a guilty verdict every single time. And then the transitional period between point B and point C was when he was, spoiler alert, I suppose, he was accused of murder and was put on trial. So now the end of interaction is when he finds out the truth about his father's death, and then he finds out some other really, really shady stuff. No spoilers there. And he decides to give up being a prosecutor and leave for an extended period of time. That is the end of interaction with the story of Ace Attorney with the common setting for Miles Edgeworth. I hope that kind of makes sense there. This timeline should really only be done for the characters that are most important. The ones who have names, not random blonde-haired girl number 5 or something like that. Just do it for the characters that make sense to have this sort of timeline with your common setting. Now then, if you have done everything right, like if you have written everything to the best of your ability, the plot will reveal itself to you. The characters will drive the plot forward, at least the most important ones. And, I never thought that theme should be something that anybody should decide first. Your characters will inevitably reveal the theme of your story, just like with the plot. It is like a nice accessory to your characters, the plot and the theme. Like a bonnet and a bow, your characters will carry that plot and inevitably the theme forward, using what you have written for them. The characters will write themselves. Now that I've explained my writing process to you all, a quick disclaimer. This sort of writing process should not be used for every single story, nor can it be used for every single type of story. See, especially for big open world adventures where characters are traveling from place to place and there's this big massive world like Avatar: The Last Airbender, it should not be used as the world is just too big of a place for a common setting. Unless, of course, there are very, very few characters existing in this world, like in Black Rock Shooter.